Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph, and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. Silver just had one of its strongest weeks in a few weeks. Platinum and palladium followed, and gold moved up too, just steadily like it should. But copper went the other direction. That combination tells us something. When precious metals tied to industry move together, but other industrial metals don't confirm it, you have to start asking some serious questions. Is this about industries, or is this just about the money? Congratulations to AKA Bradley for being the first to comment on yesterday's video. Thank you for the support. Y'all go down into the comments and find him to start a conversation. So let's take a look at the actual numbers of our weekly close. Gold closed over $5,100 with a 1.28% increase. Silver closed over $84 with a 9.28% increase. Platinum closed over $2,100 with a 4.53% increase. Palladium closed at $1,783 with a 3.78% increase, and copper closed at $5.76 with an actual 1.8% decrease. The order of this performance matters. Silver led, platinum followed, palladium rising with some volatility, gold moved steadily but didn't explode, but copper drifted lower. And that lineup gives us a clue to what's happening. So today I want to walk through something very important. Not hype, not panic, not the system's collapsing tomorrow, just simple observation. If money is moving into metals, where would we see the evidence? Would it show up at the COMEX, maybe in their inventories, maybe the dollar or refinery pressure? If it's industrial, would we see it in copper? And more importantly, what does that mean for stackers like us? When markets move, they leave fingerprints. The key is knowing where to look. Silver rising sharply by itself doesn't mean much. It's a volatile metal. It moves fast in both directions. And when silver rises strongly while gold moves steadily, and platinum joins in and palladium is stabilizing, that is a pattern. That participation across the precious metals is complex. And now something else is in the picture. Copper didn't confirm that move. Copper is often viewed as a signal of industrial demand. It's used in wiring, construction, infrastructure, and manufacturing. And when the expectation for global growth rises, copper usually reflects that. When factories are humming, copper tends to move. But this time, copper didn't surge alongside silver and the other industrial metals. And that matters, because silver lies in both of those worlds. It is industrial, solar panels, electronics, medical applications, defense systems, but it's also monetary. It trades as a precious metal. It responds to fear, inflation, expectation, currency uncertainty, and capital rotation. When silver rises and copper doesn't, it suggests that the move may be leaning more towards that monetary metal side than the industrial metal side. And that doesn't mean industry's dead. It doesn't mean recession is here. It simply tells us that the recent price behavior was likely not driven primarily by manufacturing demand. So if it's not the factories, then what's the next place we look? That's where we take into consideration the dollar. If metals rise only because the dollar is collapsing, then that's mechanical. When the dollar weakens, metals often strengthen. That's just how currency works. When the currency goes down, the cost of everything, including the precious metals, will go up. It really just means that what we're using to measure its value changed, and nothing else. However, if metals rise while the dollar holds steady or even strengthens, that tells a different story. That suggests that metals are being chosen. It suggests that demand is going up because individuals and large investors are choosing the precious metal over other assets. And that's when we can take a look at the futures markets, specifically the COMEX. Not because the COMEX controls everything, but because it is where price discovery happens at a large scale. When prices rise, the biggest question here is Is open interest rising with it? In simple terms, are there new positions being added? Are more contracts entering the market as this price climbs? That suggests participation. That suggests fresh money entering. If prices rise but open interest falls, then that can mean a short covering. That means traders who are betting against silver are being forced to close positions, pushing the price up temporarily. Those are two very different types of rallies. Then we can look at the COMEX inventory, specifically registered silver, the metal that is actually available for delivery. If registered inventories decline while delivery demand stays firm, that can create pressure. Not collapse, not default, but pressure. Think of it like this. A gas station doesn't need infinite amounts of fuel, but if demand suddenly increases and supply doesn't refill fast enough, tension builds and prices can react. It's not that there's a shortage of fuel, just that without enough coming in to supply the new demand, there could be a problem soon. Again, not drama, just mechanics. So now let's zoom out a little bit further. Let's take a look at this order again. Silver, then platinum, then palladium, and then gold. Gold is the calm anchor. It attracts central banks, it attracts conservative capital because it moves slower. Silver is a lot smaller. It moves faster. When traders want movement, they often move from gold into silver. Platinum and palladium are even thinner markets. When they move, it often reflects more aggressive positioning. So this order suggests a risk appetite inside the metals complex. It suggests that participants are not hiding quietly in gold. They're stepping outward into the risk curves, but still staying within precious metals. And that's interesting, because it suggests that it isn't panic. It isn't fear buying. It isn't people running away from the system overnight. It seems like it's just repositioning, and pretty big repositioning. It's pretty large, calculated moves. And that brings us to a bigger question. Are we in a moment where trust in money is subtly shifting? Precious metals often move before headlines catch up. They respond to expectations, the undercurrents, the quiet reallocations. But let's talk about that supply. Silver supply doesn't expand quickly. Most silver is mined as a byproduct of copper, lead, and zinc mining. That means that if copper production slows, so does the silver production. Silver supply doesn't automatically surge just because silver prices rise. This pipeline is very complex. At the same time, industrial demand for silver continues expanding in areas like solar technology, electric vehicles, high-efficiency electronics, and defense applications. These use and consume silver permanently. It isn't always recycled efficiently at small scales. So the physical backdrop is already tighter than many people realize. When you combine tight physical supply dynamics with increasing futures participation and strong price movement independent from copper, you see a scenario worth watching. Watch the gold to silver ratio. If it compresses rapidly, that tells you that silver demand is accelerating relative to gold. Watch copper. If copper suddenly joins the rally, then the narrative shifts towards a broad industrial strength. Watch the dollar. If metals continue to rise, even during a dollar strength, that's notable. You could even be watching the COMEX silver industries week by week. With the delivery month approaching quickly, I know that a lot of people are focused on that topic. But this isn't about predicting a moonshot, it's about reading behaviors. Markets speak in behavior long before they speak in headlines. And right now, behavior suggests that capital is leaning into precious metals specifically, not commodities broadly. Because a broad commodities supercycle looks different. Energy surges, copper surges, agricultural commodities surge, everything moves together. But that's not what we're seeing right now. We're seeing precious metals participation. And that could mean that inflation expectations are rising. It could mean that hedge activity is increasing. It could mean that traders are anticipating a policy shift. Or it could simply mean that technical momentum has attracted capital. All of those are possible. The key is to stay calm and stay observant, but don't overextend the narrative. As stackers, we don't need drama, we need clarity. We don't need to declare shortages every time the price moves. We need to understand the plumbing of the system. When silver rises and copper falls, that's not industrial boom, that's a capital allocation signal. When platinum and palladium join silver, that's a broader metals participation. When gold stays steady but doesn't lead, that's not panic, that's rotation. So are we in the middle of something bigger? Maybe. I believe so. But only time will tell. This week was not random. The order of performance told a story. Silver, platinum, palladium, gold, and copper with a slight downward. That's not noise, that's behavior. And behavior is where smart observers focus. I just made my own line of coffee. Joseph's Reserves It's Today Again coffee. Most mornings aren't dramatic. They're quiet. You wake up, pour yourself a cup, and now you have a choice. Drift through the day or take hold of what's in front of you. That's really what this whole thing's about. Showing up, building good habits, staying disciplined in the small things. Whether that's stacking consistently, learning something new, or just being faithful with what you've been given. I put these words on every bag to remind myself first. Every morning is a gift. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. So take a breath, take a sip, and let's get to work. It's today again. You can now write me at Joseph's Reserves, 10160 Highway 242, Suite 800, number 401 in Conroe, Texas, zip code 77385. Make sure to include your information so I can write you back. If you liked today's video, make sure you go down and hit the thumbs up button. Let me know in the comments section if you have any comments or questions. Share this to anyone you think may like it, and subscribe if you haven't already. But most of all, thank you so much for watching. And just remember, every ounce adds up, so no matter how small, just keep stacking.